Hi, welcome back to Healing the Gap. I'm Josh. With me, as always, my host Morgan. And today we're talking with our very own Quisha Marbury, a researcher here at CHEER, to talk a little bit about foster care and some of the inequalities and inequities that are happening within the system with the kids that are involved in it. Quisha, first off, how are you doing today?
I am great. How are you, Josh?
I'm
Morgan.
good. Morgan, how are you?
I'm here.
You're
I'm good.
here. We're thriving. We're all thriving.
Yeah.
Before we get into sort of the nitty gritty with the inequities and stuff happening, trying to just get up to speed. Keisha, you are a foster parent, as I understand, and we're trying to like, lend your expertise to this. But if real quick, just maybe go over the like finer points. There's kind of differences between like adoption versus like foster care, because I think I've got an idea of it in my head of like those kind of situations that happen. But maybe you could kind of help clue me in and listeners about some of the more like subtler or like finer points like the situations that occur. And mainly the reason I'm asking is just because I think like in my head, foster care's kind of always been a sort of like that everyone on board, especially if the child's old enough, they understand it's sort of a temporary fix, and for lack of a better term, it's a bit more of a slightly detached situation versus like adoption, where it feels like really bringing the child like into the fold of the family. But at the same time, there's a lot of foster care. I think things that are they feel like a family anyway, like a very core unit, even if it's still possibly temporary. But yeah, if you want to just like touch up on that real quick before we get into the deeper stuff.
Foster care is looked at as something that is temporary, like you said, with the goal to reunite the child or children with a family member or back with the parent. And then adoption is more of a permanent situation where the child is legally adopted by the foster parent or kinship, a family member or something like that. But equally, they're both looked at as a way to just protect the child and put them in a permanent home and so that they're not just in the system.
During that situation, is like the birth parent involved like with the child? Is it like a kind of give and take, or is it, I mean, for maybe other parent like foster folks you've like spoken to?
Well, in my situation, the mom was involved. She was a teen mom, and she did come to some of the visits, which was supposed to be on a weekly basis. It was supervised at they do it at library, it can be at like Center for Families or somewhere like that. It's picked out whoever the caseworker is, they kind of decide like a neutral location
Okay.
to allow the parent to have visitation. But I mean, I know of foster parents that have never seen the biological parent and have had the children, for years, and they've never had any visitation or anything. Usually that's a situation where the parent is like addicted to opiates or something of that sort.
Gotcha. I didn't realize that it had to be like that coordinated with like a public, like a coordinated visit, that it wasn't
So
just like
yeah,
can just like stop over, you know, I mean, like I don't know how much kind of planning went into it.
yeah, it's a lot of planning.
We're here to talk a lot about I mean, the system itself is already like complicated and there's a lot of
Very.
stuff going on. Morgan, do you have a maybe like a lead off point to start this off with? Because there's a lot to delve in, and I could go anywhere with this.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe we can tailor the conversation to be specific towards the experience that foster parents have. Just because Keisha is a foster parent, I think she can speak to some of the logistical and also like the personal experiences of it. So something I was wondering, Keisha, is what is the process becoming a foster parent?
So it does require some training, 36 hours of training, and really asks a lot. They need all of the bills in your house. I had to submit my deed, my car insurance, an actual interview, like a sit down interview, so the caseworker can kind of just get an idea of what my life is like. I guess they kind of do like a couple of questions about your mental health, which is needed, especially with the last incident that just occurred with the foster mom and the 5-year-old. Also, I had a fire inspection with the city that I live in. And then the caseworker also came in and did a inspection of every nook and cranny of my house. So it's very thorough. They do a lot for the foster parents, but unfortunately, it's not as deep once the child goes back with a family member or with gets reunited with a parent. So that's one of the issues that's big with us foster parents is that the training and everything that we have to go through is not as extensive when the child is supposed to get reunited with the parent. It's just, they do a parenting class that they can do online, a mental health assessment that can be done over the phone, and there's usually like some kind of drug screening or something in the parent's case plan.
Two of those things can be done like over the phone and online, like those the mental health, right?
Yeah,
Like, do you think that might be a slight like gap in like really assessing like
absolutely,
how like the actual quality is?
absolutely. It definitely is a huge gap with it, just with the system, period. I feel like there's a lack in how the parents that want their children back, there's a lack in the education that's required for them to receive their child. There's a lack in the training that's required to receive their children. So yeah, there's a huge gap in the system.
Gotcha. Sorry, Morgan, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna ask Keisha, what are some of the challenges that you faced being a foster parent, whether it be like logistically navigating the court county systems, or whether it be like just in terms of the everyday aspects of being a parent?
I could say it's a combination of both. I definitely have a wonderful support system. My parents have been amazing with assisting with the foster child that I had in the home. Yeah, they were great. And you need definitely need a support system as a foster parent. You can ask for respite, but there's a lack in that. There is not a lot of people available to do respite because there's such a shortage in foster parents right now. After COVID, there was a huge drop with individuals actually can't terminating their licensure or just simply not taking any children home. So finding respite care was difficult, but like I always tell you guys, it takes a village to raise a child. So that thankfully I had a village. Some of the other issues were, getting in touch with caseworkers or trying to schedule dates for them to come in for a monthly visit if they showed up for the visit or if they even, called to schedule the visit. So that was an issue. Also, the paperwork, there's a lot of paperwork in being a foster parent.
The kind of issues touching base with the caseworker, is it you mentioned the drop in foster parents available, but also is it that kind of lack of touch base? Is it because the caseworkers themselves are like overwhelmed that they can't just like
Yeah,
meet the demand that to like meet with everyone?
right. They have high caseloads, and I get it. I totally understand that. There's a lack in caseworkers wanna work in the county just because of the issues that are still going on with there being children being housed in the county because they don't have placements for them. So, there's just been a lot of issues within the Department of Family Services right now, and caseworkers are dropping. I've had I had my foster son for 2.5 years, and we had, I wanna say, 4 caseworkers in
Oh
those two and
wow.
a half years. Yeah, so there's a large turnover rate within the county, and
Mhm.
that's unfortunate that, we have to start a relationship over again. He has to get used to a new caseworker, so it's a lot, especially when you have a 2.5-year-old that, you know yeah.
I can only imagine like the burnout
Oh, yeah.
that a lot of them face in that role. I've known a few people who've decided to go the social working route, and they say it's very like emotionally taxing and demanding, and it's probably a field that a lot of people like have a lot of good intention going into, and then it's really easy to get consumed and just not being able to like fulfill the demands, and having being a person who wants to go into a system and have really good ideas and a lot of energy and passion, but the
Mhm.
system has a lot of holes and flaws that you as a person can't fix. And like,
Yeah.
yeah, because we talked about how within Ohio there was like a crazy amount of number of foster children that were like sleeping in county buildings because there weren't group homes or foster families for them to go to.
Right, and that's unfortunate, and, the county is not leaning towards the best interests of some of the children with reuniting them with family or reuniting them back with parents, and the caseworkers know that that's not the best decision. And, some caseworkers are leaving because of that. They're there because they want to do what's right for the children. But when you have to make a decision that isn't within the best interest of the child because you have higher ups that are, over you and telling you what to do, it's kind of rough. And some of them are leaving because of that. And I totally get it. I would be in the same boat. Like I wouldn't be able to stomach that.
Kind of piggybacking off like both those points. It's like, yeah, it's a weird, like, delicate, like, house of cards thing where it's like it's hard to like move anything because, like, if, yeah, like you said, Morgan, people maybe coming in there with like good ideas, but it's like you move one thing, you're kind of maybe messing up something else, or there's like bureaucracy or whatever else. But then on top of that, like, to Keisha's point with talking about in the interest of the child, like, for kids, like, a big thing is like stability, right? And
Yeah.
like I can only imagine for the kids who are a little bit older, if you went through four caseworkers in 2 years, and imagine if you're like a child and you're like, oh, hey, someone else is just like, I don't, if you're in the system with that already being kind of unstabilized, and then the person who's supposed to be quote unquote like handling you to take care of your stuff, like that person's changing, so you're just saying like, I don't know where I'm going. That's,
Right.
none of that's in the interest of them. And yeah, so yeah, I can understand also the burnout and not maybe getting the things done that maybe that a caseworker wanted to set out to get done in the first
Mm-hmm.
place.
Exactly.
Another question that we chatted about earlier is like, what do you view the role or the impact of foster parents or families, like within Cuyahoga or or just in general in the state or the country? What do you see like your role or impact as, I guess?
I'm laughing because we had a long discussion about this prior to. But I feel like the role of a foster parent or a foster family is to provide stability and safety for the child, as well as an abundance of love, which is, I feel, necessary for a lot of the children because uh, thankfully I got my foster son when he was 7 weeks old. So, you can kind of mold them and give them the love and stability and everything that they need because it's at an early age. And but sometimes you'll get a child that's like 5 or 6 and they've been bounced around over and over again. So just to have that safety and love and stability, I think that's what a foster parent is supposed to do and should do at every county, every state. They train us to don't get attached, don't get attached. But how can you not get attached and still love that child and treat them like they're your own and give them everything that they need? You can provide them with everything that they need to get a good start in life without getting attached. So yeah, that's my short answer for that.
Yeah, and especially at such an early age too. It's like, how do you not, like, they're
Right.
like you're first taking care of almost like everything for them. So it's like, how
Mhm.
are you not supposed to get attached during those like
I have no
formative?
idea. I'm like, okay, you don't get attached. That's when you find like the children in the cages,
Yeah,
that incident. That's to me, okay, that's mental, first of all. I just feel like there's no way I could love like my foster son and do that to him or anybody for that matter. But it's just like they teach you to not get attached. And I think that's something that needs to be taken out of the curriculum. I get it. I understand why, because I had a hard time like transitioning my foster son to his biological mother. And y'all know I was a mess. But I guess that's that attachment that I had for him. But I've had him for so long, almost 3 years. So thankfully I still get to see him on a regular basis, but it's still not the same.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like if the families would treat the children like they're your own and give them the support that they need and just be patient. Number one, just be patient. It takes a lot of patience for these children they may come from an abusive situation where they just had to be abruptly removed from their home. You just have to be patient with them, and it takes time. It does take time, and that's one thing that a foster parent definitely has to have is an abundance of patience.
Right. Yeah, because I think that really goes what you were saying about, like, I still see him sometimes and things like that. And oftentimes, especially when it comes to caring for children or figuring out what the best needs of a child is, it always feels like there's multiple things opposing each other. Like, it's this person's emotions versus this person's emotions. It's
Right.
this person's rights versus this person's rights. And especially when it comes to kids who don't get to be vocal about, like, their wants and oftentimes their needs, and it's decided for them. It's always really important, like you said, to like enter those situations with like a philosophy of like care, and instead of it being like it's my emotions versus this person's emotions, it's like, okay, well, how are they, like, let's prioritize the relationship instead of the individual.
Right.
And I think that also ties really into like the whole concept of like it takes a community, like you were saying earlier, community and a village to raise a child. And the way to do that is to prioritize the relationships that everyone has with that individual child and the relationships that they have with each other. And that goes to like you being able to like, still being able to like see him and offer him some care post him being transitioned out of your home, I think is a testament to that.
Oh yeah, I'm just blessed to be able to see him because you all know I thought I'll never see him again, but it's a blessing to actually build a relationship with his mom. She is still a teen, so sometimes she'll ask for advice or something, or just I guess just kind of want to just talk things out that she's going through. So it's nice to kind of be a figure for her as well.
I was just gonna ask, is that I don't know how many other foster parents maybe you've spoken to, but interaction with the child like post, is that typical, or is that because you were there for that child in such like early years, having that like bond and wanting to connect post? But yeah, I don't know if that's like a typical thing, or is that kind of case by case?
I guess it's kind of case by case. I speak to a lot of foster parents during our trainings, and I can honestly say I haven't heard of a lot of foster parents still being able to see the child once they transition to their like a family or a parent. But then the ones that I do know that still see the children, it's a benefit for the child, especially during the transition process, because they kind of be able to come back and get some, not want to say stability because they're supposed to have stability with their parent, but just get back to a familiar
Yeah,
place,
helps
and
the
still,
transition.
yeah, I hope it does, at least with my situation. I hope it's because it's only been 6 weeks since we've transitioned. So I hope this is something that is beneficial to him and that it continues on throughout the rest of his life, that my family is still his family.
Tangent off that. Do like foster parents ever transition into like just being adoptive parents? Like if
Oh
prior
yeah.
to situations be like temporary, but then it's like, hey, like maybe the return decides for whatever, but then it's like I don't know how typical it is for like foster parents to go into the like, hey, like we're just gonna adopt this child.
It happens. Like it depends on what kind of licensure you have. Like you can just have a foster license, that's it. But there's also a foster to adoptive
Oh,
license,
okay.
which is what I have. Because I felt like, well, if I have a child that comes into my home and I've had them for 5 years, I don't want them to be adopted somewhere else and I've had them for 5 years. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you absolutely can. Like my goal was to adopt my son, my foster son.
I gotcha.
Um, and it was like at the final hour that things start to pick up for his mom. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to. But yeah, there is a special license out there where you can absolutely adopt. Like if your goal is just to foster and adopt, you can do that. And the county actually pays for that
Oh, wow.
option. They pay all the fees for that. If you're adopting a child that is a child that isn't within the Cuyahoga County system, then you can adopt and they'll pay for the adoptions fees for that.
Okay. I didn't realize there was like a special like license. I thought it was like a totally separate like hey, I have a foster child, and by the way, now I want to like. But it's kind of cool
Yeah.
that there's an actual like process for it already.
Oh yeah.
And then the last topic for today
Yeah.
that that we kind of chatted about off the record, but now we're gonna talk about it on the record, is the racial disparities within the fostering system. So I think we all know that a lot of children within foster care are minority children, children from marginalized communities, and maybe that number doesn't proportionally reflect, or the number of foster parents of similar backgrounds doesn't proportionally reflect the demographics of the children within foster care. So I thought this would be an interesting topic. So Quisha, from your experiences, classes, anything along those lines, or just your knowledge of the foster care system being on the parent side, what are some of the racial disparities that you see within the system, either for the kids or for the adults?
Well, like you said, there's more minorities in the foster system, but there are not a lot of minority foster parents. There actually are specialized training. We have to do 40 hours of continuing ed every 2 years. And there's classes for like, I don't know the exact name, but it's like fostering a child of a different race or fostering a child that is LBGQ plus. There's all kind of training out there to assist with that, but it doesn't really, I don't know, I guess if you kind of take heed to the classes and do your own research, you have a better understanding of the child that you have in your home that's of a different culture or a different race. I know that there's a lot of white families that are foster parents to Black children, and a lot of white families that are adopting Black children within the county. So they have kicked up recruitment for foster parents, Black foster parents, but as far as I know, it hasn't been that great. Y'all know how recruitment is. It's not always easy. It takes time. Like I said, a lot of people do not want to foster since COVID. So it's rough for these children out here. I know they would like to see a familiar face when they come home. There's been like families on the calls they don't know how to comb the hair. If they have a Black child in the home, they're struggling. That's one of the struggles that they have. Some children that won't eat the food. It's a lot that goes into that process of, being a foster parent to a child that's of a different race or culture. So that's been a struggle.
Yeah.
Probably also like with not even just like the child, but it seems that we know at least within our county, there's big prioritization of maintaining relationships with biological family. So there's sometimes a lot of communication that needs to be done between a foster family and a biological family, and that probably can potentially be strained as well if there aren't shared cultures, because communication is oftentimes very cultural. And this is already like a high can be a highly emotional or tense situation for all sides involved, depending on the situation. So I can only imagine how that might exacerbate things if individuals aren't like properly trained or have the necessary knowledge of how to work with people and build like intercultural relationships.
Yeah, very stressful.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I think we can all do like, all use a bit of like, cultural sensitivity and like cultural awareness, like training. I think it just kind of behooves one to, at the very least, be aware, even if you're not like an expert, but just touching base. But yeah, definitely if you're gonna be a foster parent to someone of a different race or culture than you, that to make every bit of the transition as easy as possible for them to really brush up on what you need to know, or if even if you're not the one, like getting like the resources that are needed for like where what I mean, there's like community centers and stuff like that that can try to bridge that gap.
Oh yeah, for sure. But yeah, sometimes it goes beyond training. It goes beyond your own research. Talk to family, talk to friends. Hey, I have this child in the home and I just really need some help with the hair, or really need some help with ideas for meals for them, or how to even communicate with them. There's all kind of resources out here. Friends, family, coworkers, churches. You just have to kind of broaden your horizons and reach out.
Yeah, like you said, parenting is more than just like, making sure a child is
Mhm.
fed or like clean, but there's a lot of love and deeply rooted care, and that it might be hard to maintain that if you don't have a cultural understanding of
Mhm.
the child that you're caring for and don't understand like what their cultural needs are. Like you said, like making sure they have people around them that look like them, and that means you also have to have people around you that look like them and
Mhm.
all that.
I take my son to the little gym, and there was a lady in there, and she was having issues with her daughter, her hair, and she has curly hair. And she asked, like, what products do you use in your son's hair? And I let her know, what product, just something simple. I didn't know the lady. Just something as simple as that. Just walking up to somebody and asking. It's easy to do. Just have to kind of make an effort.
So, I mean, yeah, there's a ton of different sort of, gaps within the system, different inequalities for some of the kids involved and getting them the resources they need. We could probably spend a whole other episode talking about any of the other issues that some of these kids are facing, that they're not getting the housing and stability and resources they need to have the lives that they should have. Unfortunately, we are a little bit out of time today, but Quisha, thanks for popping in,
My
talking
pleasure.
with us today. I really appreciate all the insight, and just open, at least like for me personally, just open my eyes like to all the stuff that's kind of going on behind the curtain here. But yeah, that's it for today's episode. Thanks for checking us out.